Here's an introduction to a series of videos I hope to create in the next couple months on the fireTEK system. The fireTEK system is a wireless pyrotechnics firing control system, and what I have laid out here on the table is a few of the components that I have. A number of years ago, I wanted to do a Pyromusical on the 4th of July. I looked online and did some research looking for a number of systems that would allow me to script the show and to control music. I ended up settling down on two options. One was a very popular option here in the States, used by many pyrotechnic clubs and companies and hobbyists. The other one was this fireTEK system out of Romania. As I started doing some research, I became more and more interested in the fireTEK system. It seemed to have more redundancies on how to fire the show or control it. You had options to use a remote, you had options to use various Android apps, fire it through the computer. You could use the modules as a master rather than having to have a remote. You got a lot of information real clear on the screen of the remote and on the modules, giving you status of all the cues, the power system, connectivity, whether or not there was a script in there. You actually have the ability to create a script on the fly through the remote. The other thing is I wanted to be able to control audio, and with the timecode features on here, all you need is a module. You don't need a remote. But the remote itself has an internal hard drive and an audio player on it. So for my first Pyromusical, I ran that out of this remote here, and it worked just fine. Before I purchased anything, I did a comparison at list prices at the time. I priced out what it would cost to get a 144Q system up and running. And at the time, the fireTEK system was 65% the price of the more known system. And that was the big tipping point for me. I could get into doing a Pyromusical and also have a remote to do manually fired options at a reasonable price. When I first got into this, all I did was purchase one 48E module. At the time was a scaled down version of their professional modules that come in a hard Pelican case with an internal battery. This was marketed as the quote backyard version at the time, but it gave you almost all the same functionality they had in the professional modules, but at this slimmed down case that was a much less expensive option. And that came with these rails here. Essentially, these modules have 48 cues. The modules have 4 ports, RJ45 ports on the back. They use Cat5, Cat6 cables, which are relatively inexpensive. You can make them yourself if you need. And you also have the option to split those cables. And for my first show, I had a number of these industry doublers that I was able to put a number of the rails out in parallel. My first show was 72 cues, and it lasted a handful of minutes, scripted to music, but it worked flawlessly. And that was with this remote here. Just a quick overview of the system today. They've discontinued these 48E modules, and things are packaged in this 48FX module. There are also options for 16Q modules and 24Q modules, but what I have is a number of these 48 modules. This one here is a full up module with all the bells and whistles. It has an internal battery, so it's powered on right now. It's got a 14.8 volt 1000 milliamp battery internal to it, and it also has an option for external power, so it has a backup redundancy there if needed. That also allows you to do an external trigger. It's got the same RJ45 ports for the rails on the back. It's got the nice large screen that gives you an indication of what type of network you have, the signal strength, CAN bus connection, your battery status. Here I've got a full internal battery. I don't have an external battery connected. the ID of the module. It's as a slave. This one also has internal GPS clock in it for GPS time code. Right now it's telling me I've got no rails connected. The screen will give you continuity information once you plug in the rails, or give you indication as to what is programmed for the script. On the front panel here, you've got your key. You've got a USB B port. This is used to connect the module to a computer or an Android app like I have set up here. It's plugged. This one here is plugged in. I've got loaded a script onto this module here through this app. I can control the app here. I just put it into armed and I can start the script. You'll see in the background here about every 5 seconds there'll be an LED light going off on the rails here. The module gives you 2 buttons to control forward and backwards through all the menus. This has Bluetooth capability. It also has a wireless capability, and it's got an external antenna. The wireless module inside of this is FCC and Industry Canada rated. It's got time code. It's got 2-wire CAN bus option, and one thing that I'm really excited about is a DMX option here. DMX option is something I've had fun playing around with in the last little bit with some flame machines that I have. The remote here, the remote has a similar screen. It gives you all the information of the modules that it are connected to, so you can cycle through the screens of the actual modules. The buttons are laid out such that you select a module, you select which rail you're going to fire, 1, 2, 3, or 4, and you select which queue if you're manually firing. You can also play audio off of this. You can create and load scripts through this. This has a this version here has a 2-wire CAN bus output as well. It's got the USB B port for connecting to the computer and the Android app. It's got a USB A port, gives you access to the internal hard drive for the audio player. I'd also read audio files off a USB drive that's plugged into this. It's got an audio input and output. The output is for playing audio. The input is for time code into this remote. And this has an internal battery as well. There's a number of rail options. I showed you, these were the original rails here that came with my first purchase. Now there are these translucent rails here with integrated LED lights. The integrated LED lights allow you to do see when they're doing a continuity check. The LED lights start flashing on the field. Also, if you're checking your script, you can see the LED lights light up when the script hits. I don't know if you can see it right now in the light, but 9 just went off. 10's going to go off here next on rail 3, then 11. So the script is running here in the background. There's also fireTEK splitters here to split out the rails, and they also have quick clip rails here as well. The quick clip rails also have integrated LEDs in them, and these are an integrated splice as well, so you can essentially daisy chain a number of rails together for a front. And also they have these lower cost rails as well that have the RJ45 ports on either end, so you can split these out fairly easy without using the separate splitters. So that's a quick overview of the fireTEK system. I hope to complete a large number of short videos here in the near future that will go through all the various functions of the system, including loading firmware, creating networks, manually firing, step firing, creating scripts, including DMX, loading and managing scripts, Android applications, sequencing, audio control with the Android app, and other videos such as setting up time code and external triggers, and maybe a few videos from suggestions that come in. I hope you find these videos helpful and informative. My goal here is a bit selfish in that not only will these videos help me to go back and remember how to set up the system, but also I'm hoping to encourage others to try out this system so that there are more people that join a very small group of very satisfied users of this system right now.